Hello, gorgeous ones. This is Kim Ibrink Jansen. Today I'm going to do a tapping sequence with you on how to clear past trauma associated with any kind of event. So a lot of the issues that come up are around some kind of post-traumatic stress that occurs. And so if anyone's struggling with post-traumatic stress, they can actually try this sequence and clear this from their body. So just give it a go. Let me know how you feel after you do this. But really it can pretty much help with anything. So if there has been any kind of sexual abuse that you've encountered, any other trauma around attacks or anything like that, you can try and use this video to clear some of the anxiety that you get around that. So what I want you to do is I want you to get a piece of paper and a pen. And when you've got that, I want you to write down the exact phrase as to what you would call the attack, or you would call the trauma, or you would call whatever it is. So whatever that trauma is, whatever the memory is that you have, I'll give you an example, is, say for example, you'd witnessed, the only thing that comes to mind, witnessed a murder, for example, and you've been traumatized from that. You just write down witnessed a murder or witnessed the murder, or whatever the words are for you. I want you to write those down. So write down the phrase as to what it is that you're wanting to clear pretty much. Then next to that, I want you to write down the intensity as to how strong that feeling is, or that memory is. The way you get that is that you look at the phrase and you ask yourself, how strong is that intensity out of 10? 10 being the most strong and 0 being that it's not strong at all and it's not there. So I want you to write down the first number that comes to mind when you say the phrase that you've written down. So the number should be anywhere between 7, 8, 9 or 10. If it's lower than that, I'd like you to re-look at your phrase and see if you can use different words to lift the intensity of what that phrase is. So remember, it's out of 10, 10 being the most strong and 0s being not strong or not true at all. Write that down. And now I'm going to get you to tap on your pressure points with me to clear some of this anxiety and fear and trauma out of your body. Are you ready? So start on the top here, and I want you to say the traumatic event. Say what it's called. Say that phrase. Okay, on your next point, say the phrase of the traumatic event. And the next one, say your phrase or traumatic event. And under your eye, your phrase or traumatic event. Down here, your phrase or traumatic event. Your phrase or traumatic event. Your phrase or traumatic event. And then just go under our arm, your phrase or traumatic event. On your wrist, your phrase or traumatic event. And then on the outside of your hand, the phrase or traumatic event. If you get quite upset, that's okay, it'll start to pass. Now I just want you to take a deep breath and just blow out any of that energy in your stomach that you're holding on to. Now we're going to do a round of I release and let that go. So start on the top here and I say, I release and let that go. Down here, I release and let that go. On the outside here, I release and let that go. 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 I I release and let that go. I release and let that go. I release and let that go. Take 2 deep breaths. Now I want you to blow out the trauma or the energy. So breathe in, find it in your body where you're holding it. Usually it's in your stomach. Grab it and now blow it out. And one more. And breathe it out. Okay, so it should be feeling a little bit more relaxed about it now. What I want you to do is I want you to look at the phrase that you've written down before and say the phrase again in your mind, and then what's the first number that pops up out of 10, and I want you to write it down next to the other number. We're going to do one more round of each, and then what I want you to do is I want you to tap this down, do this process again until you get it to 0. Are you ready? So start on here. So your phrase or traumatic event. 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 Take a deep breath. Okay, let's do a round of I release and let that go. You ready? I release and let that go. 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 Now take 2 deep breaths. Find that tension in your body and blow it out. You ready? Grab it and blow it out. And one more. And blow it out. Okay, look down at your phrase and write down what's the first number that pops into your head out of 10. I want you to keep doing this. So do one round of the phrase or traumatic event and then a round of I release and let that go, and take 2 deep breaths and get this down to 0. Let me know how you go, and if you've got any questions, just message me underneath. Good luck, everyone, and just get rid of that stuff because it's holding you back from being amazing and that amazing person that you are. So good luck and get rid of it. Mwah.